Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the SpaceWolf DT140, and this is very similar to a previous model that I had on my channel called the X140. I think it was Furry rebranded at the time, although I don't think GearBest is using the Furry rebrand as much in their newer models. And the previous model looked like this, and in fact it's the exact same frame. If you can see here, it's a StretchDex 3-inch frame, 140 millimeters motor to motor. They just repurposed this frame and using some different parts in this newer model. The old model had the what are these? 1306 3100 kV motors, pretty decent motors. Not a whole lot of power. Obviously, there's a lot bigger motors out there, and they upgraded the motors on the newer version here. I don't know who makes these motors, but they're branded DT 1408 3600 kV. So it's a bigger motor, obviously, and it's interesting is that they've kind of been switching the specs around, the parts around on this model from when it initially came out. I think that some of the first reviews I saw on this had the 1506 or 1507 motors on there, and they went down to a smaller motor here for this, possibly because of the higher amp draw. They wanted to give you guys a little more flight time while still giving you a little bit bigger motor for more power on this updated version. That's possibly one reason why they chose this motor on. I suppose this is the second iteration of the SpaceWolf. The flight stack here on the older version is a 20 amp 401 EC bursting at 25 amps. You get an F3 flight controller, and then you have a pretty basic video transmitter, no smart audio, 25 150 milliwatt power switch bulb. That's the max is 150 milliwatt, and you got a whip antenna soldered directly to the flight controller, or to the video transmitter. And I believe this one also, when I first got it, came with a receiver. I think it was a generic D8 FreeSky receiver at the time. Over here, the receiver on the newer version is the XM Plus, and it comes with the antenna is already heat shrunk and zip tied to the frame. So basically, you just have to pull it up, and you should be good to go. Obviously, you have to still bind the receiver, of course. Now the stack is very different. I don't know what was used in the previous version of this when it first came out, but this one here has the HDLRC F428 version 2 stack. And so if you are a fan of the HDLRC stacks, you're going to like that. And if you're not, you're not going to like it. So I know there's a lot of debate out there as to the quality of the HDLRC stacks. Some people swear by them. I personally haven't had very few issues with these. I've had probably HDLRC stacks in well over 10 of my micros, and I've only had one ESC fail on me out of the 10, and that was probably because of my own fault, because I was testing out a bigger motor that I shouldn't have, and just fried the ESC because of too high of an amp draw. I overpropped it. So, you know, that sometimes you get a lot of I guess noise out there from people complaining about HDLRC products. I personally haven't had that many problems with them, and this version 2 fixes the problem with the pins breaking on the ESC board or the flight controller board, because they're using a long screw that goes all the way through here, so that, you know, previously they were using nylon stand-offs that would break in a crash, and of course the pins would separate from the board because of the nylon stand-offs breaking, but with a metal screw going through all the way through now on the version 2, that fixes that problem. So anyway, I digress here on this stack, but I believe this is a better stack than what was on the older version here. 28 amp 400 ESC BLHeli-S, got an F4 flight controller, Omnibus Betaflight OSD, and you get the TX20 video transmitter. It uses the TRAMP protocol for changing your channels, bands, and power via the Betaflight OSD, and that was all set up already out of the box. And this one also goes up to a maximum power of 350 milliwatts. So very nice stack here. I like that a lot. Now the camera they're using on here, it's some kind of new generic micro camera. I think it's a CMOS sensor. The lens is kind of unusual. It's kind of a concave lens. It's not really it's hard to come on camera there. You can see there, and most lenses are coming out instead of going in, and this one goes in. And the field of view is very narrow. Yeah, you'll see that in the flight demo. I did talk about that during the flight demo. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this camera here. You can see I'm flying with about a 30, maybe 35 degree camera angle, my normal camera angle, but I can't really go that fast, and when I do, when I tilt forward, I'm just basically looking at the ground because of the very narrow field of view. It's mostly very narrow on the vertical side, and I'm not exactly sure if this is a 4.3 or 16.9. The specs on the Gearbest website are kind of vague as to the specs of this camera. Yeah, the colors are nice. I mean, the image looked pretty decent. I think it's probably like a 600 TV line CMOS sensor, but the lens is kind of weird, and I might want to try and replace that with something. I just don't know what kind of lens would fit that, because it's got a very long focal length. You see the nose of the lens sticks out quite a bit. And yeah, I think that if they had chosen a different camera like a Foxeer Aero Micro or Runcam Microswift, I think that the experience would be a lot better. In fact, I'm going to try and I'm going to switch the camera out, and I may do a tuning video on this particular model in the future, because I've been asked quite a bit for a tuning video, and I think this would be a good model to do that on, because this came with stock PIDs, and it flies okay on the stock PIDs. It's not perfect. Obviously it needs a little bit of tuning, and I think I'll do that in the video. You'll see that in the flight demo that I'm having some high throttle oscillations. I think it's because these props are unbalanced. I don't know who makes these props. They're kind of a clone of something. And there's also another set of clear ones that are a little bit different from these. They're like 30-30 props. And I think those are King Kong props. So I may try those on the next video. But I think the orange ones aren't that great. They're okay in the mid throttle, but in the high throttle you get a lot of vibrations and oscillations, and you'll see that in the flight demo. Okay, one last thing before I show you the flight demo, just give you the weight, and this is without the LiPo, 150 grams. I was flying it with the China Hobbyline 4S battery. This is the 650 milliamp hour 4S LiPo. It's an okay LiPo. I think that it doesn't have a huge C rating, so I may need to try another battery in the future. I may try like a 550 4S GNB. I might get a little bit less flight time. I think I'll get better performance out of this, out of these bigger motors especially. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show you some flight demo footage. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Okay, so this is the maiden flight. Just going to see what the PIDs look like. I have no idea. It looks like they're default Betaflight PIDs. I'll have to see how this does. I think this is 3.2 or 3.3, so in most cases should be okay. I might have to adjust a little bit, but I'm just going to fly it as is. Here we go. Feels okay. The tune's a little on the loose side. The camera angle, or the field of view on this camera, does seem a bit on the narrow side than what I'm used to. Colors are okay. Reception on the video transmitter seems alright. Default tune on this one seems okay. Yeah, the angle, the field of view on the camera is definitely on the narrow side. As soon as I want to go fast and I pitch forward, I'm just looking at the ground, so I'm not going to be going too fast here. I think at this camera tilt and field of view of the camera, this is going to be more of a cruiser. I think if you want to go fast on this one, you're going to probably have to switch the camera out to something with a wide angled lens. But as soon as I tilt forward to trying to get some speed, you can see there I'm looking right at the ground. I'm looking right at the ground. The camera is not really conducive for high speed unless you want to tilt this up a lot. I suppose you could do that. I have a fair amount of camera tilt, probably about 20. I did tilt it up a little bit. It was basically zero camera tilt out of the box. And I put it up to probably about my normal 30, 35 degrees, and then the field of view is much too narrow compared to typical Runcam Swift or Foxeer Aero. Those are going to be more in the probably 160-ish degrees field of view. This is probably closer to 90, 100, much less. But I think this is a CMOS camera. Colors look pretty decent. This kind of reminds me of like a Sparrow, the original Micro Sparrow, or perhaps the Caddx Turbo F1. It's not bad. I just don't like the lens on this. It's just too narrow for me. And you can see I got a little bit of oscillation on that full throttle. Let's do another full throttle going up. You hear that sound of that prop oscillation. Yeah, you can hear that oscillation on full throttle there. That is probably too much P gain. Try that again. No, it's not too bad that time. Also could be the props. There's some sort of generic 30, it looks like a 30, maybe a 30-30, 30-35 prop. I'm not sure who makes it. It looks like a clone, these orange props I'm using. They look like they use two different vendors. The clear props look like the King Kong 30-30s. This one, I have no idea who makes this one. These orange ones might just be unbalanced. The motors, they sounded smooth when I was rotating them by hand, and they sound smooth just in the air. I don't hear any weirdness from the motors themselves. We'll have to see how hot they are when I come down and land. I'm already at almost 4 minutes of flight time. I'm not really doing a lot of speed here. Probably have to land pretty soon. 13.9 volts now. Yeah, I definitely need more camera angle, more field of view to go faster. Can't go too fast. Plus, at the high end of the throttle, I am getting some oscillation there, you can hear that. And yeah, the battery is about dead, so there we go, 11.1 volts, time to land. Land now, there we go. So, hope that was a good test for the first flight here. And it was a really bad landing. I think I totally killed the battery there.